What's up, everyone? This is your boy mekelkasanova coming at you with another video, and it's going to be another episode of Cop or Not, where I'm going to talk about whether a game or item, technology, whatever it is worth copying, which means getting, or not. So in this one, I'm going to be talking about Mass Effect Andromeda. What a journey. 60-some hours into it, okay? So, is this game a cop or not? And you guys are going to be able to buy this fully come this Tuesday. And, well, I'll let the review do the talking. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay up to date on all the latest crazy content. And make sure you ding that bell. That way you know when the new videos are coming. And if you haven't already, check out my Patreon channel. That way you can help support the channel. Without further ado, and hopefully I don't get blamed for this, let's go ahead and get into this review for Mass Effect Andromeda. Play my intro music.
Do you wanna dance?
Mass Effect Andromeda comes at us at the tail end of what's truthfully been one of the most incredible periods for us gamers in the form of large-scale RPGs. Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier, you name it. Even Ghost Recon Wildlands. They've really set the standard so far in 2017. And truthfully, in a genre where the Mass Effect trilogy is already considered among the best games ever created, this puts a huge amount of pressure on Mass Effect Andromeda. The Mass Effect Andromeda puts you in the shoes of either Scott or Sarah Ryder. You're a Pathfinder for the human portion of the initiative to colonize the Andromeda Galaxy, and the initiative, called apparently enough the Andromeda Initiative, is the brainchild of eccentric billionaire Gene Garson, who aims to push forward the evolution of all sentient life by sending a colonization expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy, by utilizing some advanced technology to turn mass relays into long-range, faster-than-light telescopes. The Andromeda Initiative was able to locate 7 habitable golden worlds in a region of Andromeda called the Helios Cluster. That's where you and tens of thousands of hopeful colonists were sent. You were dispatched in 2185, shortly before the events of Mass Effect 2. The expedition's colony arcs arrive at their destination in 2819, so the year 2819, only to find the Golden Worlds have all changed and or been changed in the last 630 years, and they've gone from idyllic, life-rich worlds to barren, hellish nightmare rocks. Humanity's colony arc takes damage after colliding with an energy cloud they name the Scourge, which may or may not have something to do with the Golden World's conditions. And the initiative's central hub, a huge space-based structure called the Nexus, almost as large as the original trilogy's Citadel, turns out to have arrived early and has been waiting for you in other arcs for 14 months. The Nexus is starved for resources and has lost a chunk of its population due to a rebellion. The rebels have been exiled, but you'll run into them eventually. Worse, none of the other arcs, one each for the Turians, Solarians, and Sari, have even shown up. The game opens with your father, Alec Ryder, ordering you into action. Alec Ryder, who's voiced by Clancy Brown, is the human arc's Pathfinder. Sort of a combination of lead troubleshooter and emergency governor, and, you can put the two together. The Andromeda Initiative's rules state that if things go awry, each arc's Pathfinder is given effectively unlimited power to figure out how to unfuck the situation that they're in. And since things have definitely gotten fucked up, Alex steps up. Now along the way you'll face new threats such as the Ket and the Remnant. And, the latter, looking at the conservation and preservation of species through advanced technology and wanting to defend it at all costs, and the former, looking to destroy every race but its own. So it's a pretty good setup in the early interactions by laying the groundwork for the story narrative. It isn't long before the plan goes far left south, and the writers are faced with conflict, and this is where Andromeda first runs into its problems. You see, BioWare has made minor improvements to the general feel of combat thanks to a new dash ability and the jump jet, which improve fluidity. The jump jet allows players to use a minor jetpack burst to reach higher locations and allows greater verticality both in exploration and shootouts. Mass Effect Andromeda is kind of, well, let's be honest, it's basically a buffet of open world RPG elements. It's big and it's filling, but it's not necessarily fulfilling in the sense of nourishing. At first glance, it's much more complicated and interesting than the previous games in the series, since every ability has a minor skill tree or a mini skill tree. All of the character classes can be leveled up, and there's a fairly complicated crafting system, but truthfully, upon closer inspection, it becomes apparent that the system is actually fairly shallow, and that only seems complex because the interface is unnecessarily busy and complicated. With only 3 ability slots, your options are extremely constrained, limiting the ability to mix and match skills. You know, 2 of my slots are taken up by a tech power combo that I learned pretty much leaned on for the entirety of the game, leaving only 1 slot truly available for experimentation, and I ended up going with a turn and sticking with it for pretty much the entire game to basically help me because my ally AI was truly horrendous. So, if we're treating Andromeda like the typical third-person shooter or cover-based shooter, we're going to compare it to the original, and it feels fine. You know, it's not spectacular, but it feels fine. Because of this new encouragement to push forward, the AI greatly suffers. You know, enemies seem programmed to seek cover at all costs, and they will constantly be running to cover to keep from dying. So when you run up and try to attack them, they panic and flee without fighting back, and they'll look for cover. There have been many occasions where the enemy AI truthfully just breaks while running away, failing to find a suitable hiding spot, and as soon as I learned that the game system could be exploited like this, most of the combat situations just became cover shoot, repetitive, dull situations. Your ally AI, truthfully isn't any better. It shows, you know, great concern for self-preservation, but if your partners have melee moves, this makes sense. You know, other shooters do the same thing. This, truthfully, would be fine if they couldn't be killed, but when they go down, you're the one that has to revive them. So, with that constantly happening, that becomes very frustrating, truthfully. And, you know, combat, in my opinion, has usually always been a strong suit for Mass Effect. Not the first one, but 2 and 3 definitely. It's so prominent in Andromeda that the problems that keep happening, they just can't be ignored. And, you know, thankfully BioWare's greatest strengths, dialogue, in my opinion, has been significantly improved. The breathtaking scale of Andromeda goes some way to explaining why these bugs, these glitches, are so frequent. This game is simply enormous, and it continues to grow even after dozens upon dozens of hours into the main story. The sheer wealth of missions available at any one time is overwhelmingly intoxicating. And it's just basically because every single one of them feels important as the next. Unfortunately, listening to conversations intently, this is where you'll run into the situation which I think everyone's familiar with hearing at this point, and that's the very bad to awkward facial animations that keep happening. They're mainly limited to the humans, but they consistently undermine the conversations and the great voice acting. It's really hard to take an emotional moment seriously when, one of the riders, their eyes seem to be flying all over the place. So it makes you wonder if they're possessed like the Undertaker or something. Well, anyway, poor animation is limited to the faces. Characters' arms oddly will just bizarrely shake. The teeth of the Krogans appear through their lips, I'm not sure why. And, well, people forget how to walk, and so at points they'll just fly in and out of the frame of the scenes, while the game desperately tries to play catch up with the cutscene. No doubt many will have seen a lot of the embarrassing GIFs that have been circling the internet since the early access from EA Access has appeared, but they are there. Perhaps, at this point, my biggest problem with this game is the fact that it de-emphasizes Mass Effect's traditional dialogue choices to the point of being... Sometimes it can feel like every choice you make is incredibly impactful and meaningful. Other times, everything seems nearly meaningless. And that may be a contradiction of an earlier statement I made, but hey, I'm not here to advocate a return to the Renegade Paragon system, but Andromeda's distinct lack of consequences make a lot of the choices feel superfluous, and often you'll make a big choice and one character or another will hate you for a bit, and then out of nowhere everything's all roses and fucking sunshine. So, with a couple of exceptions, it makes it easy to brush off the politics of dealing with the council, and yeah, that's back, lessening their impact overall, which more broadly, the lack of interesting dialogue options makes for less complex scenarios overall. The result being that most quests are resolved by fighting, which is not something that happened in the original trilogy, but hey, that's what this has going against it. It's the original trilogy will always be there as something that will be something that this will be compared to. Andromeda still has a few interesting choices to make about the future of the Helios cluster. But, that dialogue though. Excellent voice acting, but, Anyway, Mass Effect Andromeda's various shortcomings culminate in a boilerplate finale that leans so heavily on action game and action movie cliches. It's truly a far cry from the days when you could talk to the final boss and basically get them to commit suicide so you wouldn't have to kill them. And well, this goes without saying that the main quest is pretty much, this game's weakness. It's fronted by a very boring big bad, and with only the shallowest, most mustache-twirling motivations. This is kind of comical in a way. The Archeon is meant to be the antithesis of your mission. Slavery and death against life and freedom. But he struggles to differentiate himself from just about any cliche action video game villain of the 90s and 80s, and hell, even the early 2000s. The weak main quest, is basically what's been on my mind the entire time I was playing this game. It's really hard for me to decide how to score Mass Effect Andromeda, as there was a lot of shallow and repetitive mechanics and enemies in this game. It's the planets often comparatively there's very little to discover, and outside of the pretty scenery, resources and camps, the character models and the animations, obviously they're a factor as well, though. But they weren't as noticeably bad, in my playthrough, as much as people would hype. It's rather vast and it's beautiful landscapes. They definitely help the general aesthetics of the game, but with all of these issues, they truly keep Andromeda from reaching its full potential, and it's a damn shame to see BioWare play it just so safe with this rich setting, but it just still managed to, I managed to mostly enjoy my time with Andromeda, and let's paraphrase that. Let's just say I managed and mostly enjoyed my time. And I may even go back to complete some stray quests, but man, this is, yeah. I mean, granted, there's a lot of overwhelming amount of things to do in this game, and I'm still invested enough to want to continue visiting this, but I don't know. I suppose Mass Effect Andromeda does its job as a reboot or a way of just getting out of the Mass Effect 3 ending. And granted, it feels good to come back to the Mass Effect universe, and it's richer and more interesting than I truly remember. I just hope that with the sequel that's coming, I feel like we don't just take a step forward, we just make leaps forward rather than backpedaling. All negativity aside, there's a lot, and there's an awful lot to like about Mass Effect Andromeda. It does have an intriguing and far-reaching story, and it's told across an incredibly vast and detailed galaxy. The new tone will makes each interaction, at times, depending on what scenario you're in, feel meaningful. Sometimes not. And, well, the actual journey is more interesting. Riding around on the Nomads is truly excellent fun, and the exploration feels great. It's just, if everything gets right, there's just always something that's holding it back, and combat is improved. It just pales in comparison to, games in this genre, and especially thanks to the brain-dead AI. Facial animations are laughable at times and have a negative impact on voice acting. And the voice acting, don't get me wrong, is superb in this game. It's just bugs and performance issues, they just hamper this. Truly, Andromeda is a good game. Despite my ramblings, it is a good game, and I'm gonna be fair and say it's a good game. Potentially possible to be great. And I've enjoyed my time with it. It's really hard for me to say whether or not the last 5 years that we've waited for a new Mass Effect adventure, if it's worth jumping into. I'm truly going to have to end this review by saying that you have to go into this game knowing the backstory of the other games, but keeping an open mind. Because if you played the hell out of the other trilogy actually, then you're always going to be comparing this to that. And I feel in that regard, that can make it difficult to see this game for what it is. And it's a great game. It's a good one. But nostalgia really plays against this. Recommended. Is this a cop or not? I think for the first time in my cop or not series, I'm gonna have to say that this falls into the category of this or that. You can go either way about it. I mean, this is a game you could enjoy it. Then again, maybe not. It's just really, I can't, honestly, I'm just gonna say I can't say this is a cop or not. I can't say it's a cop, and I can't say it's not. It's strictly, it's deadlocked. Actually, you know what? That's the third one. Deadlocked. It's deadlocked in the center, and I'm gonna leave it there. It's up to you. You decide. You can use my review as a point of reference if you want. Other than that, your decision. I can't say whether this right now is a cop or not. It's deadlocked, and I'm gonna just end this review on that. And that just about wraps up my review for Mass Effect Andromeda. I played it on PC, you know. I also have it on Xbox One through EA Access, but my early review code was through, well, I wanted to play it on PC. I like the game. Don't get the impression that I dislike it. I do like it. It's just, it didn't... See, this is where nostalgia is a bitch, okay? This is where when you've had such a great experience with something and you have such fond memories of it that it makes it almost impossible to enjoy the new iteration of it or something that comes along that eschews like the same feeling. And that's the uphill battle that Mass Effect Andromeda was going to have, is because people who love the trilogy or more so liked 1 and 2 and kind of hated the ending that was shoehorned into 3 will constantly compare it to that trilogy. And in many ways that can be unfair because you're not really giving the game an opportunity to shine in its own right. But when you market it as a new story that's technically a sequel, but not a sequel, is it a cop or not? It's a deadlock. Like I said in the review, it's a deadlock. This is, I wanted to love it. I just, coming off of great games like Breath of the Wild, Nier, Nioh, or Neo, Horizon Zero Dawn, anyway, this game is not the truth I thought it was going to be. It's not saying, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, it's not saying not to buy it, not to like it, not to enjoy it, because if you do, I'm happy for you. Support publishers, support the game developers, support the people making it. But as someone that's stuck with nostalgia, I'm stuck in the middle. I can't say it's a cop, can't say it's not, it's a deadlock, it's here, you know. So, that's my stance on it. This is my review. So, tell me what you think. Post your comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the Patreon. Support the channel if you guys want to help us grow further. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers, you know. And keep in mind, we are having a Nintendo Switch giveaway that will be given away next month in April. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you for watching. As always, have a good time. Deuces while. I'm McKail Casanova, your host, and I'm out. See you later.
Everybody drinks on me. Everybody in this bitch drink for free. Give me a whiskey double. A little bit of Jack is always trouble. And I'm feeling good, like the man with the lady proof of readers would. Next up, straight to the DJ. Tell him play whatever songs she say. Her body is a misdemeanor. Dangerous, but I